He sneered at her maternity dress, chuckling under his breath as though she was a joke. Little did he know, within 24 hours, that same woman would hold the power to change his entire world. Would you believe that a single knock on her apartment door could turn a penniless, expectant mother into a landlord overnight? Yet here we are, with an old key, an unexpected inheritance, and a twist of fate that would bind two sworn enemies under one roof. Prepare yourself for a tale of wounded pride, startling secrets, and shattered illusions, because sometimes destiny doesn't simply knock, it barges in, unannounced. On a drizzly afternoon in Midtown Manhattan, Sophia Kim bustled her way into a cozy cafe on East 43rd Street. She gently tugged at her loose-fitting maternity dress, a fluttering pastel blue garment that had seen better days. Sophia was 7 months pregnant, and though her savings were meager, she carried herself with quiet determination. Each day, she told herself that life's storms only made her stronger. As she entered Brew and Bloom, she noticed the cafe was filled with the usual eclectic crowd of city workers taking their breaks. A few well-dressed men in dark suits perched around a high table, sipping espressos as they exchanged hushed business talk. A group of college students hovered near the back, laptops open, scribbling notes in battered spiral-bound notebooks. Sophia joined the long queue, her swollen ankles protesting against standing for too long. She discreetly shifted her weight from one foot to the other, trying to balance her exhaustion with politeness. That was when she spotted a sleek black wallet slipping from someone's table and landing with a thud near her feet. She crouched a bit awkwardly with her pregnant belly and lifted the wallet. The sleek leather carried an embossed monogram, in T. She looked up, seeking its owner, and saw a tall, dashing man with perfectly styled brown hair and an impossibly expensive-looking suit. "Excuse me," Sophia called, stepping forward. "Is this yours?" He turned, eyes scanning her from head to toe, lingering on her maternity dress. A smirk twisted across his lips. He grabbed the wallet from her outstretched hand, barely mumbling a thank you. Instead, he cocked an eyebrow. "They still make dresses like that?" he said, his voice dripping with amusement. Sophia's cheeks flushed crimson. She blinked, trying to steady her breath. Did he really just throw an insult at her, unprovoked? Her dress might have been outdated, but it was all she could afford after patching together rent and medical expenses. She expected an apology, or at least a polite nod, but none came. Instead, he motioned to the barista, apparently impatient for his double macchiato, and turned his back as though Sophia were invisible. The men around him snickered, focusing on the discolored hem of her dress. Sophia's eyes stung with tears, but she refused to crumble in front of a man who looked like he stepped out of a Wall Street billboard. Nicholas Townsend. She caught the name stitched on his briefcase as he strolled away with his coffee in one hand and phone in the other, leaving Sophia behind as the cafe line inched forward. She couldn't help but overhear him bragging to a friend on the phone. "Yes, Dad's finalizing the deal with Morgan and Finch tomorrow. Once that's done, it's practically ours. But I told him it's a worthless old building. If it were up to me, I'd tear it down." She frowned, her curiosity piqued. What building was worthless in Nicholas Townsend's eyes? And why did his words prickle at her sense of justice? She tried to shake off the moment, focusing on ordering her decaf cappuccino, but the laughter at her expense echoed in her head. If only he knew who she was, or who she might become. Later that same afternoon, Sophia trudged home under a broken umbrella that barely kept the drizzle at bay. Her studio apartment was situated in a worn-down building on East 12th Street. Tiny by Manhattan standards, it was still her refuge. The paint peeled in the hallway, and the elevator frequently broke, but it was hers, at least until her lease ended. Inside her apartment, a single flick of a switch illuminated the cramped living space. The sofa doubled as her bed, and near the window, a small desk served as her writing nook, where she scribbled half-finished short stories in the hope of publishing them someday. Stacks of library books lined the wall. One, ironically, was Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad, a borrowed volume she'd hoped would inspire her to make better financial decisions. She had scarcely set her mug down when the phone rang. The caller ID displayed an unfamiliar number from California. A wave of concern washed over her. She rarely received calls from outside the city, and she had no family in California, at least none she was aware of. "Hello," Sophia answered. A calm, polite voice responded. "Am I speaking to Miss Sophia Kim? My name is Abigail Martinez, an attorney at Redwood and Bloom. I'm contacting you regarding a matter of inheritance from your late uncle, Mr. Martin Kim." Sophia's heart fluttered. Uncle Martin. She hadn't seen him since she was a teenager. He was a mysterious figure who had moved to the West Coast for reasons unknown, cutting off most contact with the family. Uncle Martin passed away. Sophia sank onto the sofa, unsettled. "I wasn't aware we'd even been in touch." "Your uncle left very particular instructions," Abigail continued. "He had no children, so in his will, he bequeathed his property in New York to you. Our records show it's a commercial building located in Lower Manhattan." Sophia nearly dropped her phone. A commercial building in Lower Manhattan. She must have misheard. She thought Uncle Martin had been drifting from place to place, never settling down. "This might be a mistake," Sophia stammered. "I don't have a means to." "There's no mistake," Abigail assured her. "Mr. Kim's wishes explicitly stated that the building and everything in it goes to you. I'll send the documents for your review. The property manager will reach out for further instructions. It seems your uncle trusted you to oversee it." Numb with disbelief, Sophia thanked the attorney and ended the call. Her mind whirled. She stared at her battered maternity dress. Ironically, the same target of that arrogant man's mockery. She was unemployed, 7 months pregnant, and scraping by on her meager savings. Suddenly, she owned a commercial building. She couldn't sleep that night. Questions swarmed. How big was this building? Was it run down or worth anything at all? Could she possibly manage tenants? Part of her wanted to wake from what felt like a dream. Another part sensed destiny's hand at work, unraveling an entirely new path for her, one she never could have imagined a few hours ago. Morning arrived gray and overcast, reflecting the confusion clouding Sophia's mind. She received an email from Abigail Martinez containing digital copies of the will. True to her word, Uncle Martin had left Sophia all his worldly belongings, including a 4-story commercial property known as the Walton Building, located near the fringes of Lower Manhattan. A second email from the property manager, Henry Paxton, introduced him as the day-to-day contact. He requested a meeting at her convenience to hand over keys and discuss urgent matters. Sophia arranged to meet him in front of the building at noon, a mix of fear and excitement churning within her. She donned her only decent coat, a second-hand navy trench, and took the subway downtown. The Walton Building rose before her like a relic from another era. Constructed of red brick with intricate stonework around the windows, it exuded a faint aura of old New York charm. The first floor boasted large glass windows and a sign that read, "Under renovation." On the sidewalk, a man in his late 50s, balding with a rumpled suit, waved at her. "Miss Kim, I'm Henry. So good to finally meet you." He pressed a heavy bundle of keys into her hand. "I was surprised when Ms. Martinez told me about the inheritance. Your uncle was, well, an interesting man." Henry paused, looking at her swollen belly. "I'm sorry for your loss," Sophia offered a small smile. "Thank you. I wish I'd known him better. Can we take a look inside?" Henry led her through the wooden double doors. The ground floor was a vast open space with dust-laden floors, covered furniture, and half-demolished walls. The hum of a neglected heating system reverberated in the background. A single fluorescent light flickered overhead, giving the space a faintly ominous feel. He explained that the building's upper floors were divided into office spaces. A couple of the floors were fully rented out, though some tenants had short-term leases. The renovation on the ground floor was supposed to transform it into a chic cafe or restaurant, except Uncle Martin fell ill, and everything came to a standstill. Sophia's heart pounded. This building was not worthless. It might be old and in dire need of repair, but Henry assured her it carried historical significance. Investors had even approached Martin about partial ownership in the past, but he never sold. They ascended to the second floor, and Henry pointed out several offices with glass partitions. "We have a few tenants here. The rest is vacant, waiting for renovations." Turning a corner, Henry pointed to a door with frosted glass and Townsend and Associates etched in gold letters. A sudden chill ran down Sophia's spine. The name Townsend jolted her memory. Nicholas Townsend, the arrogant man from the cafe. She swallowed hard as Henry continued his explanation, unaware of her reaction. "You want to meet your tenants eventually, but Townsend and Associates is one of the main ones. They have a lease until the end of the year." Sophia's breath caught in her throat. "Nicholas Townsend?" Henry nodded. "Yes, him and his father, Richard Townsend. They're a real estate investment firm. Rumor has it they were hoping to buy out this building from your uncle eventually." But Mr. Kim never budged. Images of Nicholas's smug, mocking grin filled Sophia's thoughts. She relived the sting of his ridicule over her dress. She could hardly believe it. The man who laughed at her was now her tenant. Her hand clenched around the keys, the weight of her inheritance growing heavier by the second. For the remainder of the walkthrough, Sophia listened intently as Henry explained plumbing issues, electrical faults, and future renovation plans. Yet her mind kept drifting back to Nicholas Townsend. She had never wanted to see him again, but fate had other ideas. The next morning, she returned to the Walton Building to drop off some documents for Henry. She tried to time her visit so she wouldn't encounter Nicholas. However, as she entered the lobby, she heard raised voices reverberating from the second floor. "She can't just barge in here and change everything," a male voice thundered. Another voice tried to calm him. "Mr. Townsend, please just talk to Miss Kim." Sophia, heart pounding, climbed the old creaking steps. At the top, she found Henry pinned against a wall by Nicholas Townsend's searing glare. The difference between Nicholas's pristine suit and the dusty corridor was stark. "We had a deal with Martin Kim," Nicholas hissed. "Townsend Associates was going to purchase this entire dump at a reasonable price. Now I'm hearing rumors that his heir inherited the building." Henry spotted Sophia at the landing and cleared his throat. "Mr. Townsend, let me introduce Ms. Sophia Kim. She's the new owner." Nicholas turned, face twisted in irritation. Recognition ignited in his eyes. His lips parted slightly in shock. Sophia couldn't decide if it was because she was the same woman he'd insulted or because she was pregnant or both. "You?" He let out a mirthless laugh. "The woman from the cafe, the one with." He gestured vaguely toward her dress, now replaced by a modest black maternity outfit. How was this even possible? Sophia stood straighter, ignoring the rapid hammer of her heart. "I inherited the Walton Building from my uncle, Martin Kim. I'm sorry if this complicates your business plans." Nicholas scoffed. "Complicates? This building was supposed to be ours. We were in the final stages of negotiating with Martin. Did he not tell you that he was preparing to sign?" She glanced at Henry, who shrugged helplessly. "I have no records indicating a formal sale agreement. Only that Mr. Kim considered offers but never signed anything." Nicholas's gaze bore into Sophia. "You're out of your depth. Are you even aware of the building's extensive renovation requirements, its compliance issues? Let me save you the trouble. Sell it to me." A swirl of conflicting emotions seized Sophia. Selling might be the easiest escape. She could use the money to support her unborn child. But something about Nicholas's arrogant tone stiffened her resolve. He thought her powerless and naive, someone easily manipulated. "I'm not selling," she said calmly, surprising even herself. "At least not right now. I need time to understand my uncle's plans and the building's potential." Nicholas took a step forward, his voice low. "The building needs more than your understanding. It needs millions in repairs. Do you have millions lying around?" Sophia refused to back down. "I'll figure it out." He sized her up as though assessing a formidable opponent for the first time. A muscle in his jaw twitched. "Fine. You want to play landlord? Let's see how quickly you regret this." With that, Nicholas brushed past her and stormed down the staircase, leaving the air charged with tension. Sophia exhaled shakily, clutching the banister. Never had she felt so challenged, so determined. In a single day, she had transformed from an object of his ridicule to the one who now held the lease over his office. In the weeks that followed, Sophia immersed herself in the labyrinth of property management. With Henry's guidance and a stack of building inspection reports, she quickly realized the Walton Building indeed needed substantial investment. The facade required restoration, the electrical wiring was decades out of date, and the plumbing threatened to fail on any given day. Between visits to her doctor for prenatal checkups, Sophia met with contractors, solicited quotes for repairs, and listened to tenants' grievances. She received a crash course in building codes, tenant rights, and real estate law. Her days were exhausting, but for the first time in months, she felt a sense of purpose. She was fighting for something bigger than herself, an inheritance that could secure her and her baby's future. Townsend Associates, however, remained an unspoken threat. Sophia heard rumors that Nicholas was still pushing the idea of purchasing the building, even going so far as to hint that if she refused, he might rouse local inspectors to look more closely at code violations. The notion made her stomach churn. In the midst of this, she found unexpected allies among the building's tenants. A small marketing startup, Harper Innovations, run by a young entrepreneur named Melissa Harper, offered to help design promotional material for attracting new occupants if Sophia could lower their rent temporarily. A retired editor named Jonathan Brewster, who occupied a small office on the third floor, volunteered to help her review complicated legal documents. "Your uncle was a kind soul," Jonathan told her one afternoon, adjusting his reading glasses. "A bit reclusive, but he had a great heart. He turned down many offers to sell because he believed the building had a historical charm worth preserving." Sophia, seated across his cluttered desk, smiled faintly. "I wish I'd known him better. He never stayed in touch after moving away. Why would he leave all this to me?" Jonathan set aside the papers. "Martin once told me he saw a similar spark in your resilience. I think he called it. He said you understood hardship and wouldn't compromise easily." Tears welled up in Sophia's eyes. She pressed a hand to her belly, feeling a soft flutter from her baby. "I hope I can live up to that." Meanwhile, Nicholas was growing more impatient. Despite his father's connections, every effort to buy the building outright was met with a polite but firm refusal from Sophia. With no purchase agreement in sight, Townsend Associates was forced to continue paying rent, albeit begrudgingly. One crisp morning, Henry summoned Sophia to the building for a pressing issue. When she arrived, she found Nicholas waiting in the lobby with a man sporting an official city inspector badge. A wave of apprehension washed over her. "Nicholas, what's going on?" she asked, trying to maintain composure. Nicholas's smile didn't reach his eyes. "We have a problem. The city inspector received an anonymous tip about possible structural concerns in the building. Given that it's quite old, I can't say I'm surprised." The inspector, a no-nonsense middle-aged man, cleared his throat. "I'm here to check the building's structural integrity. If we find any major issues, we might have to issue a notice requiring immediate repairs or even evacuate certain floors." Sophia's mind raced. If the building was deemed unsafe, she could lose her tenants and her only source of income. She shot Nicholas a suspicious glance, suspecting that he was behind the complaint. "Let's show him around," she said softly, determined to cooperate. They embarked on a thorough inspection, stopping at each floor while the inspector examined beams, walls, and load-bearing structures. Tension brewed between Sophia and Nicholas with every hallway they traversed. She noticed that whenever the inspector looked uncertain, Nicholas quietly offered extra commentary about the building's age or recent mishaps. At last, they ended up in the basement, dimly lit by a single bulb. It smelled of damp concrete and stale air. The inspector circled around large metal support pillars with a flashlight. Sophia held her breath, praying that the building's bones were stronger than they appeared. After an agonizing half hour, the inspector emerged, clipboard in hand. "The structure is old, but it's not immediately compromised," he announced. "A few areas need reinforcing. I'll detail them in my report. You'll be given a timetable to address the repairs." Relief flooded Sophia. "Thank you. I'll make it a priority." Nicholas's expression remained unreadable, but Sophia sensed his frustration. His plan to corner her, if indeed it was his plan, had fallen short. As the inspector left, Nicholas leaned in, his voice laced with condescension. "Temporary reprieve, Sophia. Don't let it go to your head." She glanced at him, heart pounding with both fear and defiance. Noted. That evening, her nerves frazzled, Sophia headed back to her apartment only to find a thick envelope slid under her door. Inside were aged photographs, letters, and a note from Abigail Martinez. "Dear Ms. Kim, enclosed are personal items belonging to your Uncle Martin Kim that might shed more light on his life and relationship with you. He wished for you to have these. I believe they hold significance not just for the building, but for you personally. Warm regards, Abigail Martinez." Sophia spread the contents on her tiny kitchen table. She discovered snapshots of Martin at different stages of his life working odd jobs, traveling across the country. There was one photo in particular that caught her eye, a much younger Martin standing in front of the Walton Building, smiling broadly, keys in his hand. Tucked behind the photographs was a letter dated a year before he passed away. "My dear Sophia, if you're reading this, it means I've left this world. I know we never got to know each other well, but blood ties are not easily broken. I saw your potential the day you insisted on visiting me in that rundown motel when you were just 14. You gave me some of your hard-earned babysitting money because you believed I needed it. That memory has never left me. The Walton Building needs someone with heart. Townsend Associates has tried time and again to convince me to sell. I refused. These men see buildings only as profit and loss. But you, Sophia, you see life differently. I believe you'll do what's right. With gratitude, Uncle Martin." Tears welled up in Sophia's eyes. She gently traced the handwriting, recalling that day as a teen when she snuck away to see Uncle Martin. Her parents had disapproved, labeling him the family black sheep. Yet she had felt compassion for him. Now he entrusted her with the building, with his legacy, an act of faith she couldn't squander. Within days, Sophia began to see progress. With the help of a small renovation loan secured through a local credit union sympathetic to her story, she hired a crew to fix the most pressing issues. She couldn't address everything at once, but at least she wouldn't be slapped with an eviction notice from city inspectors. Word spread of a new landlord with big dreams. A few prospective tenants showed interest in renting out the vacant spaces once repairs were complete. For Sophia, it felt like a glimmer of hope amidst the chaos. Then one morning, she received an unexpected visitor in the building's lobby. He was tall, silver-haired, and wore an impeccably tailored suit. He introduced himself as Richard Townsend, Nicholas's father, and the founder of Townsend Associates. "I'd like a word with you, Miss Kim," Richard said, holding out a business card. "It seems you and my son had a tense introduction." Sophia kept her guard up, but she led him to the small makeshift office she had set up on the ground floor. Richard glanced around at the half-finished walls. He spoke with a polished courtesy that Nicholas lacked. "We were sorry to hear about Martin's passing. He was a stubborn man, but I respected him." Sophia nodded, searching his face for hidden motives. "Thank you for your condolences. My uncle didn't mention you." He offered a faint smile. "We were acquaintances in business. My firm has had its eye on this building for some time. Let me be frank. The Walton Building could become the crowning jewel in a commercial redevelopment plan. I've personally invested in the surrounding neighborhood for years." He cleared his throat. "I'd like to propose a fair deal. More than fair, actually. We'll buy the Walton Building from you, pay you above market value. You'll be set for life, Miss Kim. No more dealing with contractors, code inspectors, or tenants. You can secure a wonderful future for your child." Sophia's heart thumped at the mention of her baby. She couldn't deny the temptation. A massive check would solve her financial worries, guaranteeing her child a comfortable upbringing. No more stress, no more struggling to patch holes in the building's roof. But Uncle Martin's letter flashed in her mind. He'd trusted her to keep the building from falling into the hands of those who only saw dollar signs. "Thank you for the generous offer, Mr. Townsend," she replied carefully. "But I'm not prepared to sell at this time." Richard leaned back, shoulders tense. "At least consider it. I can email you the details." "No pressure," he said, though his tone suggested otherwise. I only want to see you and your child thrive, and the building, if I'm being honest, demands resources you may not have. Sophia forced a polite smile. I appreciate your concern, but I'm determined to see through my uncle's vision. He rose to leave, smoothing out his lapel. Nicholas will be in touch then. If you change your mind, let us know. This offer won't last forever. As Richard Townsend exited, Sophia clasped her hands in her lap, shaky from the confrontation. She realized that the father was as formidable as the son, just more refined in his approach. The building was at the center of a high-stakes game, and she was the unlikely player standing against a powerhouse family. 2 weeks went by, and Sophia saw little of Nicholas, although she heard him occasionally barking orders to his staff from behind the frosted glass door. She focused on immediate repairs, patching up the roof, updating the fire alarm system, and ensuring the elevator met safety standards. She poured every cent of her small loan into these tasks. Yet progress was slow and costlier than expected. The baby's due date loomed closer, and exhaustion pressed down on her like a heavy weight. One afternoon, as she was reviewing contractor invoices, a gentle knock sounded at the ground floor office. She glanced up, expecting Henry or a tenant, but found Nicholas Townsend standing at the doorway, one hand in his pocket. "Busy?" he asked, with an almost cordial tone. Suspicion flickered in Sophia's eyes. "Always. What can I do for you, Mr. Townsend?" He entered, glancing around at the clutter of papers and renovation blueprints. "This is cozy," he muttered, less sarcastic than she anticipated. She set aside her work. "Spit it out, Nicholas. I'm sure you didn't come here to compliment my office decor." He chuckled dryly, shifting his weight. "You're direct. I suppose I deserve that. I wanted to discuss the building, specifically your finances. If you're strapped for cash, Townsend Associates could hypothetically invest in the renovation." Her eyebrows shot up. This was a departure from his earlier threats and condescension. "Invest," he sighed, rolling his eyes slightly. "Look, I'm not the villain you think I am. My father wants to own this building outright, but maybe there's a middle ground. If we invest, we gain partial equity. You keep majority ownership, but have the capital to fix the place properly." Despite herself, Sophia felt a glimmer of relief. It was exactly the type of solution she needed to expedite repairs without taking on crippling debt. But she also knew that sharing ownership with Nicholas would mean giving him a foothold in decision-making. And from experience, she suspected that might lead to a hostile takeover eventually. She frowned, pushing a stray lock of hair behind her ear. "I can't just make that call without consulting Henry and maybe an attorney. Also, what's the catch?" Nicholas's gaze flicked to her pregnant belly, then back to her eyes. "No catch, just a sound business proposition. If you manage to turn this building around and fill up the vacant floors, you'll see a steady income flow. If not, well, you'll at least have leveraged our investment instead of sinking alone." She bit her lip, torn between practicality and pride. Before she could respond, Nicholas spoke again, quieter this time. "Believe it or not, I admire your courage. Most people in your position would have bailed by now." A swirl of emotions made her head spin. She had never expected a hint of respect from him. Confusion meshed with curiosity. Was this part of a cunning plan or a genuine moment? "I'll think about it," she managed, keeping her tone neutral. He nodded, stepping backward. "Take your time, but not too long. Construction costs aren't getting cheaper." As he left, Sophia realized her hands trembled slightly. Was an alliance with Nicholas Townsend even possible? Or was she risking everything by letting the fox guard the hen house? In the midst of these negotiations, another curveball landed in Sophia's life. One evening, after a grueling day overseeing contractors, she returned to her apartment to find a single envelope in her mailbox with no return address. Inside was a brief typed note. "Sophia, I heard you inherited a building. We need to talk. Ethan." Her breath caught in her throat. Ethan Chong, the father of her unborn child, had left her months ago, terrified by the prospect of sudden parenthood and financial instability. He'd vanished without a trace, ignoring her calls, texts, and pleas for help. And now, out of nowhere, he wanted to talk. Emotions warred within her: anger, heartbreak, curiosity. She'd come to terms with raising her baby alone, forging ahead despite the uncertain future. Did Ethan know she had come into a property and, like everyone else, suddenly see an opportunity? She wrestled with indecision. Part of her wanted to ignore him. Another part wanted answers, or at least closure. Finally, she dialed the number he had left at the bottom of the note. He answered on the first ring. "Sophia, thank God. I've been trying to reach you." She almost laughed. "Really? Because you did an excellent job of disappearing." He sighed. "I'm sorry. Truly, things got complicated. My mother fell ill. I lost my job. I panicked." She rolled her eyes, not sure whether to believe him. "Now you're back." "Yes, I want to help. I heard from mutual friends that you inherited a commercial property." "That's amazing, Sophia. Think about what it means for our child. Let's meet." Her heart pounded with weary anticipation. Against her better judgment, she agreed to a short meeting at a nearby diner the following day. She spent the rest of the night tossing and turning, mind filled with swirling thoughts. The building, Nicholas Townsend's investment offer, and now Ethan's sudden reappearance. It felt as though her life had collided with 1,000 diverging roads, and she was forced to choose which path to walk. The next evening, Sophia slid into a booth at Penny's Diner, an old-fashioned eatery with neon lights humming outside the window. She felt out of place among families enjoying comfort food, but she needed a neutral environment for confronting Ethan. He arrived moments later, wearing a worn coat, hair slightly disheveled. He offered a small, sheepish grin. "Sophia, you look well." She gave a tight nod, arms crossed protectively over her belly. "Let's get to the point, Ethan." He lifted his hands in surrender. "Fair enough. I've been doing some thinking. Running away was wrong. I realize that now. I want to be there for our baby, especially with all these changes in your life. You've got a building. I can help manage it." A bitter laugh escaped Sophia. "Wait, you want to help manage my building? You never so much as picked up a finance book in your life. Don't you recall how you panicked overpaying half our rent?" He flinched. "I'm just trying to fix things. I messed up, okay? But this is a chance for both of us to start fresh. Maybe even as a family." He leaned forward, eyes gleaming. "A mogul? Are you in over your head? I'm good at dealing with tough guys." "I can." She held up a hand. "Stop. I don't need a knight in shining armor. I need stability, consistency. If you want to prove yourself, start with showing up for doctor's appointments or offering emotional support. Right now, the building is my responsibility." Ethan pressed his lips together, fidgeting with a napkin. "Okay, I understand, but I just want to help." They talked for nearly an hour, hashing over old regrets and future possibilities. Sophia remained guarded. She had built an independent life since he vanished, and trusting him again wouldn't be easy. By the time they left the diner, it was clear that while Ethan wanted a second chance, Sophia wasn't sure she wanted to give it. Back at the Walton Building the next day, Sophia felt the weight of her decision regarding Nicholas's investment offer. The building's repairs had already eaten up her initial loan. Future renovations would demand a larger infusion of cash, and time was running out. Several prospective tenants asked for guaranteed completion dates before signing long-term leases. Henry approached her with a stack of invoices. "We're behind schedule, Ms. Kim. If we don't pay the contractors soon, they might walk off the job." A sense of panic rose. She couldn't let the building stagnate halfway through crucial repairs. The baby was due in a couple of months, and stress threatened to overwhelm her. With her heart in her throat, she summoned Nicholas to her temporary office. He arrived promptly, wearing a charcoal suit that seemed to command the dusty space. She took a steadying breath. "I've given thought to your investment proposal. Would you mind explaining the terms in detail?" Nicholas raised an eyebrow, a slow smirk curving his lips. He pulled out a folder and laid out a plan. Townsend Associates would provide a sizable investment for the renovations in return for a 40% stake in the Walton Building's future profits. Sophia would retain 60% and full managerial control, but major decisions like selling or converting the building would require mutual agreement. Her eyes scanned the documents. The terms were surprisingly straightforward, more generous than she'd expected. Then again, 40% was not a small share, and giving Townsend Associates a foothold might open a back door for them to seize full control eventually. Nicholas leaned forward, voice calm. If you want complete ownership, fine. Keep turning us down. But you'll never finish these renovations in time to attract high-paying tenants. By the time you do, you'll be underwater in debt. With our help, you could have the building up and running within months. Sophia sighed, the gravity of her situation pressing on her. What if I'm still reluctant? Is there a chance you'll push me out? He shook his head, a flicker of something regret, maybe crossing his expression. Listen, I was rude at the cafe. Arrogant. Yes, but this is a business proposition. If you manage this well, you'll have a stable income for you and your child. We'll have a valuable property in our portfolio. No schemes this time. The sincerity in his tone caught her off guard. She studied him, remembering how he had once laughed at her. Now he was appealing to her as a partner. Her mind spun with possibilities. Was Uncle Martin's dream worth sharing with the very people he distrusted? Yet, faced with unpaid invoices, code enforcement deadlines, and her baby's impending birth, Sophia felt cornered. With a trembling hand, she picked up a pen. 40% is high, she murmured, but I have no better options. Nicholas offered a short nod. Make a counter-proposal. She licked her lips quickly, scanning potential modifications. 30%. He paused, tapping a pen against the folder. 35. She narrowed her eyes, holding her ground. 32. After a tense silence, he shrugged. Deal. So they shook hands, forging an uneasy alliance. As she slid the signed documents into an envelope, Sophia couldn't help but feel like she'd made a pact with the devil, or perhaps discovered that the devil had a soul after all. The infusion of capital from Townsend Associates worked wonders. Contractors returned, new crews were hired, and the building underwent a rapid transformation. Scaffolding enveloped the exterior, windows were replaced, and the ground floor cafe space began to take shape. A local artisanal bakery, Sweet Hearth, signed a lease for that space, excited to tap into the building's revitalized energy. Nicholas visited daily, meeting with contractors or reviewing architectural plans with Sophia. They still clashed over small details, like the choice of paint color or signage style, but found a surprising rhythm in their teamwork. Melissa Harper's startup designed a bold marketing campaign, highlighting the Walton Building's historic charm. Soon, the building's Instagram account drew interest from professionals seeking unique office spaces. Amid the hustle, Sophia balanced prenatal appointments and office calls. Her belly had grown rounder, making it harder to walk the building's halls all day. Sometimes Nicholas would offer an arm when the elevator was out of service, or discreetly bring her a chair during intense meetings. These small gestures caught her off guard, forging an unspoken camaraderie. Yet, behind every successful milestone, a nagging worry simmered. Did Townsend and Associates plan to wrest control eventually? She kept a close eye on the finances, ensuring no unauthorized expenditures funneled money away. So far, Nicholas played fair. As renovations neared completion, the question arose, what about the second-floor offices currently occupied by Townsend and Associates? Nicholas had bigger ambitions. He wanted to expand his firm's footprint, occupying 2 floors entirely. This plan contradicted Sophia's vision of diversifying tenants. One late afternoon, they stood in front of a set of architectural sketches pinned to the wall. Nicholas pointed to the 2nd and 3rd floors. If we move Townsend and Associates into these floors, we can bring in new staff, ensuring long-term stability for the building's income. Sophia hesitated. You already have a suite. If you expand that significantly, we lose variety. Part of Uncle Martin's dream was to support small businesses. Nicholas frowned. Noble, but let's be practical. We'll pay top-dollar rent. The building's bottom line will skyrocket. And push out smaller tenants who rely on cheaper rents. Her stomach churned with indecision. He tossed the sketches onto a table. When has that ever been the responsibility of a landlord? You're in business to make money, not run a charity. Sophia's eyes flashed with anger. My uncle never saw it that way. He believed in giving back to the community. There's more to life than maximizing profit margins. Nicholas stared at her, annoyance brewing. I thought we were partners. If you keep rejecting every viable option for growth, you'll bury yourself in overhead. She matched his glare. I'm not rejecting growth. I'm rejecting a monopoly that edges out the people who have helped me rebuild this place. Their heated words echoed in the nearly empty corridor, tension thick as mortar dust. A thin line separated cooperation from conflict, and they were treading dangerously close to crossing it. Over the next few days, the atmosphere in the Walton Building turned uneasy. Contractors worked faster, finishing the new wiring and installing gleaming tiles in the refurbished lobby. Tenants moved in furniture, painting their offices in modern palettes. The building buzzed with anticipation for its grand reopening. Nicholas kept his distance, reviewing budgets and organizing Townsend Associates' potential expansion without Sophia's input. Meanwhile, Ethan made sporadic appearances, trying to prove he was there for Sophia. She allowed him into a couple of her prenatal checkups, but weariness lingered between them. One morning, Henry rushed into Sophia's office. We have an issue. Nicholas placed an order for high-end elevator fixtures and is charging it to the building's budget without clearing it with you. Sophia felt her anger flare. She marched up to Townsend Associates, ignoring the stares of staff as she walked into Nicholas's corner office. It was a spacious room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. He stood at a sleek wooden desk, phone pressed to his ear. Ending the call, he turned to face her. Is there a reason you're bypassing me for major decisions? She asked, voice trembling with barely contained fury. Nicholas shrugged. We needed updated fixtures. The old ones were cheap and didn't match the new lobby design. She slammed the door behind her. And you decided this alone? We're partners. Every major expense is supposed to be a joint decision. He set aside the phone, leaning forward on the desk. I was under the impression we both wanted the building to have a polished, upscale look. Or was that another pipe dream? Her hands balled into fists. Don't talk down to me. You're using your stake to force changes that primarily benefit Townsend Associates, turning this into a high-end corporate environment, not the mixed business community Uncle Martin envisioned. Nicholas glared, color rising in his cheeks. Your so-called community is unsustainable. If the building doesn't turn a profit, look around, Sophia. Manhattan is ruthless. If you're not making money, you're losing it. She took a shaky breath, wanting to remain calm. I'm not opposed to improvements, but we discussed them first. From now on, you get my sign-off before any more purchases. He threw his hands in the air in exasperation. Fine, if this is how you want it. But I'm warning you, your idealistic approach might sabotage the very thing you're trying to save. Sophia turned on her heel and marched out. Tears threatened to spill, not just from anger, but from a gnawing fear that he might be right. Despite their friction, the grand reopening arrived on a crisp autumn day. A ribbon-cutting ceremony took place outside the Walton Building. The fresh facade gleamed, the new sign reading, "The Walton Building, established 1922," in elegant gold lettering. Sophia stood at the center of the small crowd, her maternity dress now stylish and comfortable, chosen specifically for the event. Reporters from local news outlets gathered to cover the story of a young, expectant mother inheriting and reviving a historic property. The cameras clicked as she ceremonially cut the ribbon alongside Henry, with Melissa and Jonathan standing by. Nicholas lingered on the outskirts, conversing with potential investors, while Richard Townsend was notably absent. After the ceremony, guests strolled through the newly refurbished lobby, sampling pastries from Sweet Hearth. Sophia greeted them with a polite smile, though her mind remained partially fixated on the building's future. Among the attendees was a local historian, Barbara Green, who praised the preservation of the original architectural details. The city needs more mindful restorations like this, she told Sophia. Martin Kim would be proud. The words moved Sophia, reinforcing her decision to honor her uncle's legacy. She might have compromised by taking Nicholas's money, but she refused to let him overshadow the building's soul. Yet no sooner had the building's doors officially reopened than trouble came knocking again. A flurry of complaints about noise, parking and permit violations hit Sophia's office. Some seemed exaggerated or outright fabricated. City inspectors loomed, investigating an alleged breach of historical preservation codes. At first, Sophia assumed these were typical growing pains, but she noticed a pattern. Each complaint seemed designed to stall progress or strain her resources. Who was behind it? Late one night, she received a frantic call from Melissa Harper. "Sophia, I found something you need to see," Melissa said breathlessly. "I was searching for a marketing contact and stumbled upon an email chain on the building's shared server. It looks like someone, maybe from Townsend Associates, has been sending anonymous tips to the city about code infractions." Sophia's blood ran cold. "Send me everything." An hour later, she skimmed through damning emails. The sender's address was masked through a dummy account. The tone was unmistakably urgent, fueling complaints about minor or non-existent issues. The final line in each email read, "We urge immediate action to halt all further renovations." Rage coursed through her. Had Nicholas orchestrated this sabotage, desperate to force her hand, or was it another player in Townsend Associates? She recalled how from the beginning the Townsends wanted to buy the building outright, how Nicholas had threatened to bury her in code violations. Now it seemed those threats were coming to life. Sophia's world was shaken when Melissa discovered anonymous emails sent from Townsend Associates network, urging city inspectors to stall renovations. Furious, Sophia confronted Nicholas in front of his staff, slamming printed emails on his desk. He appeared genuinely shocked. "I never authorized this," he insisted. Though his denial seemed sincere, Sophia's trust was fraying. The sabotage aligned too closely with earlier threats, and while Nicholas promised to investigate, doubt lingered. Days later, amidst mounting inspections and accusations, Sophia's stress caught up with her, sending her to the hospital with false labor pains. While recovering, Nicholas visited with flowers and an apology. One of our analysts sent the complaints, he admitted, claimed he was following orders, but I can't prove who gave them. My father denies involvement. Sophia listened, skeptical, yet moved by Nicholas's concern. He insisted he had no part in sabotaging their share investment and pledged to find the truth. The sincerity in his eyes hinted at a man torn between loyalty and principle. For the first time, Sophia sensed that Nicholas might be more than just a corporate adversary, perhaps even an unexpected ally. But one thing was clear. Someone within Townsend Associates still saw her as an obstacle, and the fight to preserve the Walton Building was far from over. As Nicholas quietly left the hospital room, Sophia stared at the ceiling, her hand resting on her belly, bracing for the next storm. At the boardroom of Townsend Associates, Sophia faced Richard Townsend and his assembled executives. Calm but fierce, she listened as Richard proposed buying out her majority stake in the Walton Building, offering a hefty payout and a promise to handle all future management. "You'll retain 10% if you like," he said, "and your hand will be free to focus on your baby." Sophia, fueled by months of sacrifice and her uncle's legacy, refused. "I won't be bullied out of what I've fought to preserve," she said firmly. The room felt tense until Nicholas unexpectedly challenged his father. "You knew about the sabotage, didn't you?" he accused. Richard's cold warning, "Be careful whose side you're on," only solidified Nicholas's stance. Back at the Walton Building, Sophia confronted Nicholas. "Where do you stand?" she asked. He looked torn but resolute. "My father crossed the line. I'm with you now." The shift in his loyalty surprised her, but it also brought a sense of vindication. In the span of one brutal meeting and one honest conversation, the battle lines were redrawn. Sophia knew that danger still loomed, but for the first time, she wasn't fighting alone. Determined to protect her legacy, Sophia contacted attorney Abigail Martinez, who swiftly filed an injunction against Townsend and Associates. At the same time, Ethan, surprisingly, urged Sophia to share her story publicly. With help from Melissa and a tenacious journalist named Reena Patel, a powerful article hit the New York Times. Expectant mother battles corporate giant. The public rallied behind her. Hashtags trended, community leaders voiced support, and tenants praised her integrity. Townsend and Associates faced backlash and falling investor confidence. Richard's tactics backfired spectacularly, and for the first time, Sophia felt the tide turning in her favor. Amid mounting legal battles and media pressure, Sophia went into labor late one night. Ethan, showing a newfound sense of responsibility, rushed her to the hospital, where she gave birth to a healthy baby girl, Sophia Kim. Exhausted but overjoyed, Sophia held her daughter close, overwhelmed by the journey that led to this moment. Ethan stood by, visibly moved, and even Nicholas arrived later with a quiet congratulations and a soft gift, his presence a comforting surprise. For a brief moment, all conflicts faded, replaced by the warmth of new life. Returning home with Mia, Sophia found her cramped studio apartment barely suitable for a newborn. While she adjusted to motherhood, Henry and Melissa managed the Walton Building in her stead. Meanwhile, legal pressure mounted against Townsend Associates. Richard's sabotage scandal exploded, leading to internal turmoil. One afternoon, Nicholas arrived at Sophia's door with startling news. Richard had stepped down as CEO under the guise of health reasons. "He's out," Nicholas said simply, then added, "And I quit too. I can't work for someone who would stoop so low." Sophia was stunned. Townsend and Associates had been Nicholas's inheritance, his birthright. Yet, he walked away for integrity. He promised to stay involved with the Walton Building, not as a corporate figure, but as someone who truly believed in its future, perhaps even as an independent consultant if she'd have him. Cradling Mia in her arms, Sophia realized the tides had fully turned. Against all odds, she had protected both her child and her uncle's dream. The building, and everyone tied to it, was on the path to something far greater. Over the following weeks and months, the Walton Building truly came alive. Tenants thrived in the revitalized spaces, their businesses flourishing. The occupancy rate soared to nearly 100%, a testament to Sophia's vision and the community she had fostered. With her newfound stability, Sophia officially moved into a modest but comfortable apartment on the building's top floor, a sunny haven with views of the bustling city. Her new home and headquarters all in one. The aroma of fresh bread from Sweet Hearth often wafted up, a daily reminder of a life she had breathed back into the old structure. Ethan remained a consistent presence in Mia's life, slowly proving himself as a caring, if sometimes fumbling, father. The romance between him and Sophia never rekindled, settling instead into a respectful co-parenting relationship. Mia, a bright-eyed, giggling baby, became the unofficial mascot of the Walton Building, often cooing in her stroller as Sophia made her rounds. Nicholas, true to his word, became an invaluable advisor and a steadfast friend. He started his own small consulting firm, and the Walton Building was his first, most cherished client. Their professional collaboration often blurred into comfortable companionship, filled with shared laughter over coffee from the ground floor cafe and quiet discussions about the future of both the buildings and, increasingly, their own. The animosity that once defined them had transformed into a deep, mutual respect, with the unmistakable spark of something more promising beginning to blossom, forged in the crucible of conflict and shared purpose. Uncle Martin's legacy lived on, not just in the preserved brick and mortar, but in the vibrant community the Walton Building now housed. Its hallways, once dusty and silent, echoed with renewed optimism, the hum of thriving small businesses and the sweet, infectious laughter of newborn hope. Sophia Kim, the once mocked expectant mother, had not only become a landlord but a beacon of resilience, proving that even the most outdated structures and lives could find renewed vitality with a little heart, courage, and an unexpected twist of fate. From a battered maternity dress to becoming the unexpected landlord of an entire commercial building, Sophia Kim's journey is a testament to the surprising twists life can throw our way. She navigated sabotage, battled corporate greed, and wrestled with her own uncertainties, all while preparing to welcome her daughter into the world. In the end, the once outdated Walton Building found renewed vitality. Much like Sophia herself, who discovered inner strength she never knew she possessed, and in the process, found not just success, but love and a family in the most unexpected of places. If her story inspired you, if it reminded you that even life's harshest storms can lead to grand, unpredictable destinies, then please help us share more tales like this. Like this video, share with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more incredible stories of resilience, redemption, and unexpected fortune. Your support helps keep these narratives alive. So, let's continue celebrating the power of hope and courage, one extraordinary story at a time.